Good evening, everyone. My name is Councillor Vicky Jalley and I'm the Mayor of the Warrnambool City Council and I'll be chairing tonight's council meeting. I'd like to formally welcome everyone here tonight, here in the gallery, and those watching this council meeting via the live streaming at home. This scheduled council meeting will be conducted in accordance with the council's governance rules, and any interruptions to the meeting or actions not in line with behaviour expectations will be dealt with in accordance to these rules and council's governance local laws. We will now proceed to the items of the agenda, commencing with the opening prayer and an acknowledgement to the traditional owners. Almighty God, grant to this council wisdom, understanding and sincerity of purpose for the good governance of this city. Amen. I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land which we stand upon and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Are there any apologies for this meeting? No apologies, thank you. Confirmation of the minutes. Councillors, at item 3 on the agenda, we have a recommendation before us to confirm the minutes of the scheduled meeting of council held on the 6th of April 2021. Do I have a mover? Councillor Taylor. Thank you. Seconder? Councillor McCoish. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. The motion is carried unanimously. Conflicts of interest. If a councillor has a conflict of interest, they must declare it now and do so again just prior to the item being discussed. A councillor who has declared a conflict of interest must leave the meeting and remain outside the room while the matter is being considered or any vote is taken. Once the matter is resolved, the councillor will return to the meeting. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest tonight? No, thank you. Item 5, the mayoral presentation. There's been a lot happening in the city the last few weeks. We've had a busy time, which is great. Along with hundreds of other community members and visitors, I was pleased to attend the finish of the 267-kilometre power core Melbourne to Warrnambool road race on Saturday afternoon. There was a lot of people there and it was really great to see people out about. The weather had been kind to the 200 riders who also brought with them a myriad of support crews and tourists to the city. Melbourne rider 20-year-old Jensen Plowright took out the overall winner of the race together with Matilda Reynolds, who was the first woman rider across the line. Congratulations to them both and all the riders that endured this gruelling event. It was great because it had been put off earlier in March because of COVID, and of course last year it was put off, so that was great to see.
Excuse me, Mayor Jolly.
Yes.
I'm very proud of my son because he was the second Warrnambool rider to finish in the race.
Oh, congratulations, Councillor Taylor. That's fabulous. He did a great job. I would also like to wish everyone attending this week's May Racing Carnival all the very best for a fabulous week ahead of racing. There's a bit of rain out there tonight, but hopefully it clears for everyone to attend. Congratulations to Tom O'Connor and the team at the Warrnambool Racing Club for their preparedness of the carnival and influx of visitors and in adhering to COVID-safe requirements. The carnival is an economic boost for the city and region, and we welcome it back and wish them well. Thank you. The agenda. Councillors, we are now moving to the officers' reports section of the agenda. I would like to remind you of the speaking times allocated for each item during the meeting as outlined in our governance rules. The mover of a motion may speak for a maximum of 5 minutes to open the debate and then a further 2 minutes later on to exercise their right of reply and to close the debate. Any other councillor, including the seconder, may speak for or against a motion for no more than 3 minutes. To assist councillors with time limits, you will hear a signal when you have reached the maximum time allowed. I would ask you to respect these time limits, please. Item 6 on the agenda, 6.1, reports. 6.1 is Community Vision W2040 and Council Plan 2021 to 2025, agenda page number 5. To consider the draft Council Plan 2021 to 2025 and the Community Vision Warrnambool 2040 with a view to releasing the draft Council Plan for public exhibition and community feedback to adopt Warrnambool 2040. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Taylor, what is your motion?
Thank you, Mayor Jelly. I would like to recommend that the Council adopt the Community Vision Warrnambool 2040, endorse the draft Council Plan 2021 to 2025 to proceed to community exhibition and feedback in accordance with Section 55 of the Local Government Act. Thirdly, authorise the Director of Corporate Strategies to give public notices in accordance with Section 90 of the Local Government Act of 2020 of Council's intention to adopt at a Council meeting proposed to be held at 5:45 on Monday the 28th of June 2021, the Council Plan 2021 to 2025. And lastly, pursuant to Section 55 in accordance with the objectives of Council's community engagement policy, Council will consider and, if requested in writing, hear any submissions received in relation to the draft Council Plan 2021 to 2025 at the scheduled meeting on Monday the 7th of June 2021 at 5:45. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this motion? Thank you. Councillor Arnott? Thank you. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak further to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Jelly. Yes, I strongly believe we have one of the best and most livable cities in the world here in Warrnambool, and I think this is a very important vision to have put in place and make sure that Warrnambool continues to be one of the most livable and enjoyable cities to live in the world. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. Councillor Arnott, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Taylor, and just a little bit of background on how we come to arise at our vision. We held a 2-day workshop which involved councillors, and the 2040 plan was reviewed along with our aspirations for the community for the next 4 years. Further engagement process was held with the staff workshop, community listening posts and 2 deliberate engagement workshops. This process also considered our resource limitations, legislative requirements and the implications of COVID-19. We're now in a position to release the plan, and we invite the public to review and provide feedback in writing or to the Your Say link, Warrnambool. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak to the moment? Councillor Paspalaris, thank you.
Obviously, this draft council plan is going out for comment and feedback from the community. I am very pleased to see that this group of councillors has reconnected our vision statement to more accurately encompass what our region is, what it means and where it's heading. The phrase, a thriving city at the heart of coast and country, I think it's an appreciation of our wonderful coastal location with a strong nod to our natural environment, to the land, to those who work on the land and contributing to our major local industries. A much improved vision, in my opinion. I endorse many components of the Mayor's foreword in the council plan, which touches on the Warrnambool 2040 as a guiding plan or process, the ongoing recovery from COVID, and our councillor group, which is aiming to take a very considered cautious approach to balanced services, projects and financial sustainability. My personal comment would be that one aspect of the council plan I would like to highlight is the fact that the Library and Learning Hub is a decision that was made by resolution prior to this councillor group. Therefore, whether I like it or not, will be constructed in its entirety based on that previous decision. I have been and continue to be concerned about the large additional annual running cost and responsibility to council that this pilot project demands. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak? Councillor Ziegler.
Thank you, Mayor Jelly. I've had to try and explain to various people why we need a draft council plan when we've got a vision 2040. And the way I've been explaining it, not only to illustrate it for residents, but also to make it clearer for myself, is that the vision is where we want to be in 2040. The council plan, the draft council plan, which we're putting out for consultation, are the steps we need to take to get there to 2040. So that they're the kind of interim steps that we need to make sure we end up where 2040 had us being. Again, I'll endorse the remarks of fellow councillor Angie Paspaliaris. I'm concerned about the costs. We have to be right on our mettle to make sure we contain the costs to achieve our vision. And it's not going to be easy, given the position we've been left with. We have to be very careful with the way we manage our finances to achieve our vision for 2040. I believe that the draft plan going out for consultation is a way that we can monitor our expenditures and the way we as a council behave.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? No? Oh, Councillor Blaine.
This plan really does set out what council wants to achieve in the next 4 years, and it's one of the first ones that we've ever actually, one of the first ones we've ever done using the new deliberative engagement policies that council adopted last year, early this year. So that's where we worked with the community to formulate the council plan together. And it does. It builds totally on what 2040 is. And some of the big exciting projects which hopefully we can get to come to fruition over the next 4 years is the possibility of a new, bigger, better art gallery, an overhaul for Aquazone, getting Flagstaff Hill to be, a better attraction again, and, try and do something with our animal shelter, trying to make it, a better facility for everyone in the community. I do wonder, though, that while we are building on the 2040 plan, I do wonder if parts of it do need to be reviewed after the pandemic. I do believe that thinking has shifted in the community on certain aspects of that plan, and maybe it's something that we should be looking at over the next 4 years. But I'm happy to adopt this to go out to community consultation. And I recommend everyone go and have a look at this and let us know if council got it right. Please take the time, have a look at our vision and see if it's the vision that you want to see for our city. So I'm happy to endorse. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors wishing to speak? No. I will now put the motion to the vote. Oh, sorry. There being no further speakers, Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak as the closing debate?
No, thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. Okay. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, item 6.2 on the agenda, Draft Revenue and Rating Plan 2021-2025. Agenda page 10. To consider Council's draft revenue and rating plan and to resolve to place this document out for community exhibition. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Ziegler, What is your motion?
Mayor Jelly, my motion is that the council endorses the draft rating and revenue plan 2021 to 25 to proceed to community exhibition.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Paspaliaris? Thank you. Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Very briefly, it's another one of the steps that we take tonight to support our general view that we want community to be comfortable with the decisions we make. We're not unhappy with making decisions, but we're all committed to allowing the community to know what we were going to do.
Thank you.
Another one of those steps.
Thank you. Councillor Paspaliaris, would you like to speak? Any other councillors like to speak? Councillor Blaine?
I've got a couple of questions before I start, if that's all right.
Okay.
The first question was, how's council tell the difference between commercial properties and Airbnb properties in this plan?
Yeah, we'll put that to corporate strategies. They're sitting here.
Through you, Mayor, we're only seeking through basically social media methods or online methods about those properties that are obviously commercial accommodation, used for commercial accommodation. We're not seeking at this stage to look at those properties that are partial, so in line with council's wishes on the matter.
Thank you.
And how often will they be checked by council?
Two times per year.
Okay. Do you want to speak to it?
Yes,
Yep,
please.
thank you.
I believe it's a good thing to see that the rating and revenue plan has been simplified by removing industrial 2. But I'm concerned about this policy on trying to put commercial rates onto Airbnbs. This really, I believe, it has nothing to do with whether I think that Airbnbs should or shouldn't be paying the same commercial rates as hotel and other accommodation providers. What concerns me is that we're looking at changing a law that council can't enforce by going through social media, the odd site, and only doing it twice a year. I really can't see how council can put this out for consultation when I really can't see how they can enforce it. It's like having a speed limit on a road and you can only enforce some at 100 kilometres an hour and not all. Especially when we're only going to check them twice a year. These properties, they are short-term accommodation. They come onto the market, they go off the market. I just can't see how we can put this out for consultation when I believe that council can't really enforce it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? Oh, Councillor Arnott?
Just speaking on the short-term rental market, I consider your point, Councillor Blaine. The other thing is here to consider is the equity to the traditional accommodation providers. Now, some of these Airbnb places, they're short-term rentals. They pay a residential rate when in fact they can be making tens of thousands of dollars. And that's great, that's a good thing. But I think it's only fair that we can help to level the playing field and help out our traditional accommodation providers. So I'm all in favour of seeing this. Yes, it might take a little while to sort this out, but we are not the only council that is enforcing this rate change. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak? No? There being no further speakers, Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to speak before closing the debate? Thank you. I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Okay, it's 6-1. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is 6.3, Warrnambool City Council Proposed Budget 2021 to 2022, agenda page number 13. To consider Council's draft budget for 2021-22, to resolve to place this document out for community exhibition and to invite submissions from the community about the budget. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Arnott, what is your motion?
That council endorses the draft budget 2021-22 to proceed for community exhibition and feedback in accordance with section 55 of the Local Government Act 2020. Authorise the Director of Corporate Strategies to give public notice in accordance with section 94 of the Local Government Act 2020 of council's intention to adopt at a council meeting proposed to be held at 5:45 p.m. on Monday the 28th of June 2021, the budget 2021-22 attached, pursuant to section 55 and in accordance with the objectives of council's community engagement policy, will consider and if requested in writing hear any submissions received in relation to the draft budget 2021-2022 at its scheduled meeting on Monday 7th of June 2021 at 5:45 p.m.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Paspaliaris, thank you very much. Councillor Arnott, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Mayor. Just want to say that as a council, we have worked diligently to align the budget with the council plan and vision, that it is to have a financial and sustainable council. I invite feedback from the community. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Paspaliaris, would you like to speak?
Our vote tonight will be for this draft document to go out for public consultation and feedback. There are aspects of this budget draft plan that I agree with. However, I'm personally hesitant still about any rate rise this year, even by CPI. Given the impact of COVID over the last 12 months, I believe that some relief could still be extended to ratepayers and businesses in Warrnambool that have experienced a tough time, many of whom I assume are still trying to catch up. I do consider the converse side to this, in that council is and has been in a very poor financial position for many years now, and so balancing the organisation's financial sustainability is also a priority, and I do see how this becomes a difficult decision. But I feel of all years and with all situations, COVID has been exceptional. I am encouraged by some of the waste management initiatives that council have begun that will continue to help residents separate items and continue to lessen landfill costs, hopefully driving waste management fees down. This group of councillors as a whole has inherited a mess in more ways than one and must try to balance spending with income. There are other things that have been known for some time within council, like an asset renewal gap that needs considerable and consistent attention. Officers have been working really hard on the hardship policy as well for rates. They have tried to modify the offering to be more robust, more communicative, so there are improvements in that area. But I do have, as I said, some hesitation in some of these aspects. These are my thoughts and comments, and in any event, I encourage and invite the community to have their say, submit their responses. Hopefully people will opt to present in person at the next open council meeting if they wish. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Ziegler?
As the other councillors will acknowledge, during our briefing discussions about this draft budget plan, I've actually stated quite strongly that I didn't want to put our rates up 1.5%. I didn't like the idea. Because I've had representations from ratepayers about putting rates up and not wanting that to happen, I've had just as many representations from people suggesting that we need to maintain our financial position, as Councillor Paspaliaris has said. The difficulty is that we've been left with a budgetary mess. We're in a difficult financial position, and it would be irresponsible of us, I believe, not to take care of the folks who will struggle if rates go up. So we've been particular during council briefings to get our officers to look at ways in which we can support the folks for whom any kind of a rate rise is going to be difficult. And we've, as Councillor Paspaliaris has already mentioned, we've made moves to strengthen the methods by which we can ease that kind of strain on the folks who struggle with that. I don't really know how we can make it any easier. I'm quite comfortable with the way in which the officers have come up with various techniques and methods about the way which people in dire straits are going to manage it. We've tried to make it as easy as we can. What we want people to do is to look at this draft budget and make their comments so that we can, if we need to, we can tweak it and we can help us make a decision about this 1.5%. I'm not comfortable with it, but to be financially responsible, I'll go with it if the community says we have to.
Thanks, Councillor Ziegler. Any other councillors wishing to speak? Councillor Blaine.
Councillor Ziegler's exactly right. Everything in this budget can be changed if that's what the community wants. This isn't locked in by any stretch of the imagination. I hope the Warrnambool community takes the time to have a good look at the budget and see where council's money is coming from and where it's going. And I hope the community take the time to have a think on a few of the initiatives we've got in here. Are they happy with the rate rise? The rise in the parking fees? Is 1 hour parking, free parking, really long enough with an ageing population and our CBD supposedly being a shopping destination? Will that keep the shoppers in there? The rise in the waste charge when we're losing half of our domestic pickup now. The growth in income from council from the extra money from the municipal charge as well. I really do hope the community does take the time, have a look at those things, see if that's, have a look through the whole budget, see if they're happy. One group I do really feel for as the budget sits at the moment though, is the CBD businesses and the workers being hit with a rate rise and a parking rise at the same time. Especially the all-day parking, which I believe would be mainly used by the employees in the CBD. It's going to cost workers who work 5 days a week in the CBD an extra $250 a year if it goes through like this to go to work with these changes. Shoppers have the option on where they can shop, but workers can't pick their place of employment. So please take the time to have a look at the budget and let us know what you think. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Blaine. Anyone else want to speak? No? Councillor Taylor.
I am also concerned about a rise in the rates, but recently the councillors were involved in a bus tour of the Warrnambool assets, starting off with the promenade, the breakwater, the RSPCA, the aqua zone, and it became concerning to me that a lot of these assets are or have depreciated a lot in maintaining and require substantial money to upgrade them, and there was also the sale yards amongst those assets. So with a rate rise, I think that'll just enable the council to give us some scope to get some of these assets fixed up and the way they should be. The swimming pool is now 60 years old and has very little money spent on it over the years. So we need to spend some money on upgrading these assets, and without a rate rise, it'll be very hard for the council to upgrade some of these assets. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thanks, Councillor Tan. Anyone else want to speak? Thank you. There being no further speakers, Councillor Arnott, do you wish to speak before closing the debate?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
I just would like to talk about the 1.5% rate rise. Every one of us councillors would have liked to have been able to give a rate freeze. There is no doubt about that. We all have strong feelings for the community and what the community, business-wise, personally have suffered because of COVID-19. The fact of the matter is, though, our Warrnambool City Council is in a dire financial situation. We simply have not got the money to do that. If we give a 1.5%, if we don't give the 1.5% rate rise, if we freeze rates, and this needs to be stated so that everyone hears this, it would cost council $600,000 a year. That $600,000 a year is a cumulative rate, so at the end of 5 years, that's going to cost council $3 million. We do not have that sort of money. A 1.5% rate rise is the equivalent, on average, to $32 per year, 65 cents a week. I think it is also worth noting that of every $100 that council collects, council keep $3.50. It doesn't sound very much, does it? We are currently carrying a debt of $14 million. Our assets have fallen into absolute disrepair. We have to find money for asset renewal. No, you're not going to see any big, bright, shiny new projects with this council. We need to be prudent and we need to be very careful. So that's my opinion. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Okay. Item 6.4 on the agenda, long-term financial plan. Agenda page number 18. The purpose of this report is to consider Council's draft financial plan for 2021-22 to 2030-31. To resolve to place this document out for the community exhibition and to invite submissions from the community about the plan. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Coyce, what is your motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My motion is that Council endorse the draft financial plan 2021, 2022 to 2030 up to 2031 to proceed for community exhibition and feedback in accordance with Section 55 of the Local Government Act 2020. Authorize the Director of Corporate Strategies to give public notice in accordance with Section 91 of the Local Government Act 2020 of Council's intention to adopt at a Council meeting proposed to be held at 5:45 p.m. on Monday, the 20th June 2021. The budget 2021 and 2022 is attached. Pursuant to Section 55 and in accordance with the objectives of Council's community engagement policy, Council will consider and if requested in writing, hear any submissions received in relation to the draft financial plan 2021, 2022 to 2030 and 2031 at the scheduled meeting on Monday, the 7th June 2021 at 5:45. p.m.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Arnott. Councillor Coyce, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
The budget is one of the things that to be shared with the community. So putting it out to the community for feedback and consultation is very essential. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Arnott, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Our long-term financial plan goes out and we have to consider the viability of our infrastructure and the impacts on the community. This financial plan does provide a 10-year financially sustainable projection regarding how the actions of the council may be funded to achieve the community vision.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Ziegler.
One of the things that keeps popping up in all these discussions about our finances and our rates and our budget is that Warrnambool City Council, as the regional centre for a fairly considerable area, is responsible for providing services for other councils. Other councils in our region, Moyne, Corangamite, rely on the city centre, Warrnambool as a city, to provide services and functional advantages for them. And to this point, the financial responsibility has largely fallen on Warrnambool. The long-term financial plan seeks to address these by working out ways in which we can share those operational costs and financial pressures. To investigate the opportunities for new revenue generation. These are important strategies for us to look at in the longer term. The financial plan addresses those kind of issues for us.
Thank you. Any other councillor like to speak? No? Okay, good. There being no further speakers, Councillor Coyce, do you wish to speak before we end the debate?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimously voted, thank you. Agenda item 6.5, March 2021 Financial Report, agenda page number 21. The purpose of this report is to update Council on the financial performance for the 9 months ended the 31st of March 2021. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Blaine, what is your motion?
That the March 2021 finance report be received.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Paspaliaris, thank you. Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
The March 2021 financial report, it's positive to see that local tourism's helped our budget recover more quickly than we first thought. Most council businesses have actually delivered a surplus, which is great, especially with the early easing of restrictions. Council's gained $4.461 million from this recovery. The only other thing I'd like to point out in the financial report, and hopefully it'll be coming up soon, is the sale yards that are a very important opportunity for Warrnambool, and hopefully it'll be something we'll be making a decision on into the near future. So happy to endorse.
Thank you. Councillor Paspaliaris, do you wish to speak? Thank you. Are there any other councillors that wish to speak to it? No? Thank you. There being no further speakers, Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak before closing the debate?
No, thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 6.6, Activities and Initiatives 2021 to 22, January to March, Quarter 3. Agenda page number 22. The purpose of this report is to provide information on the progress in achieving the activities and initiatives, ANIs, set down for 2020 to 2021 as part of the Council Plan and Budget process. This report provides Council and the community with an update in the progress of actions across Council's functional areas. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Blaine, what is your motion?
The activities and initiatives 2020-2021 January to March quarter 3 be received.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Blaine, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yeah, just quickly, the activities and initiatives, it's exciting to see that with everyone moving back into their offices, finally, that most things on the report have been progressing at pre-pandemic levels again, which is really good. And one thing I'd really like to point out, which I think is something that we should be proud of, is 2.216, the immunisation rates. Over 97% of the children in Warrnambool, 1, 2 and 5-year-olds have been immunised, which I think is really, really good, and it's exciting to see for our city. So, yes, thank you.
Good. Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to speak to the motion? Thank you. Is there any other councillors that wish to speak? Councillor Pasbaliaris, thank you.
I think that this is always a good sort of checking point for both the community and council itself to just sort of see where a lot of the processes stand and activities and initiatives being start, middle or at the end. I'd also like to make it known in the interests of the community and for those watching it and listening that for item 3.5.2, the federal black spot funding application for Lava and Kepler Street roundabout, this comes directly from Council's infrastructure department or officers. This is not a councillor decision, nor are we consulted about such applications for federal funding. I think that the council and councillors sometimes lack the communication to the broader community about such issues, and therefore there can be a perception that we are making decisions or help make some of these decisions, which we don't for some of these things that are basically above us, if I put it that way. So this is not a councillor decision. So I'd just like to make that clear, and that does apply for some other things that in future I think is important for the community to be aware of. I, for one, will aim to make some of these seemingly smaller issues known to the community, just in terms of where they come from. I think, again, there is this lack of understanding for a lot of the community as to where some of these things arise. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to the motion? Thank you. There being no further speakers, Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak again before closing the debate? Thank you. Now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 6.7, councillor allowance. Agenda page number 24. The purpose of this report is to present the councillor allowance for adoption. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Taylor, what is your motion?
Thank you, Mayor Jelly. I recommend that the Council, in accordance with Section 74 of the Local Government Act 1989, give public notice of its intention to retain the mayoral and councillor allowances at the top of the band for a Category 2 council being $26,245 councillor allowance and $81,204 mayoral allowance. Thank you, Councillor Jelly.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Pasbaliaris. Thank you. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor Jelly. When I was elected to the council, I had doubts as to whether we should be paid the $26,245, and after being a councillor now for 8 months, I can see that we do earn this allowance And I have mentioned before, if any councillor feels as though that they're not worthy of being paid the $26,000, they can talk directly to the Director of Corporate Strategies, Peter over there, and they can have a one-to-one talk with him, and they can have their allowance reduced if they wish. It would be a one-to-one private matter, but I still retain the councillors and the mayor should be paid their allowances. Thank you, Mayor Jolly.
Thank you. Councillor Paspaliaris, would you like to speak to him?
This was out for public comment and feedback, and I think there were 6 submissions. This seems like not much of a response, a formal response. However, I'm sure other councillors, as I am, are aware of general public sentiment about this particular issue, even though it doesn't seem to be realised in the number of submissions. My comments would be that maybe to possibly ask the community if they generally believe that this group of new councillors deserve possibly less or no money than the council compared to the councillors before us. We've now been left to, clean up a bit of a mess on a few fronts with our current councillor group. I think that is possibly, it's adding to a lot more time, commitment, sudden change of events, sudden meetings, all of these sorts of things. From my personal point of view, I guess the only people that would see how much time it takes out of my week or my weekend would be my husband and my work colleagues and employees. I do think that we are qualifying the allowance at this point in time. I think that we have only been in the role for a relatively short period of time. I think if we are performing well, then it can also be added as a justification. And I think also initially the allowance has been there from a procedural or legislative type point of view to allow people to put their hand up for council who would be otherwise possibly disadvantaged by leaving work for lots of hours per week, or for someone who wanted to put their hand up who would have some sort of small income to earn from this sort of role. But I think that I do believe that we are working really quite hard for this allowance. Thanks.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, everyone. I agree with Councillor Taylor and Councillor Paspaliaris about our allowance, but I want to touch on another subject regarding the councillor allowance. We received 6 submissions, as Councillor Paspaliaris says, and I just would like to draw attention to a couple of those submissions. And the issue that I object to with those submissions is they have come in under the guise of a submission, but the attacks have been very personal, highly inflammatory, and just plain untrue. And in this age of cyberbullying, this behaviour is unacceptable, and I'm pleased that now all submissions must carry a name and an address. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Arnott. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Ziegler.
Through you, Councillor Jelly, I'd like to make the point that the ranges of the allowances are not set by council. They're set by the Local Government Act, and that the submissions, we received only 6 that made any kind of comment on our putting it out to public response. A lot of those submissions were based on falsehoods and misinformation. Some of them were quite inflammatory and, as Councillor Arnott said, quite rude. It's not the way we want to operate. We make a decision based on fairness. That's all I want to say about it. And I think that the suggestion that Councillor Arnott's made that such submissions should come with identifying information, name and address from the people that make these kind of inflammatory comments, quite unfair, not only to yourself but to all of us, is a good thing. They should be made to stand up when they make such comments.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak on the motion? No? All good. There being no further speakers, Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak before closing the debate?
Thank you, Mayor Jelly. Yes, I'd just like to mention and pay some praise and respect to our mayor here, because she comes in at 9 o'clock each morning. She has an office in the council chambers, and I'd just like to make a comment that Mayor Jelly is doing a great job as Mayor of Warrnambool currently, and it's a full-time job, and Mayor Jelly comes in, she works a long day and then works on the weekends involving community work and presentations. So, Mayor Jelly, you're doing a great job, well done, and I do praise your job as Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Okay, I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Passed unanimously. Agenda item 6.8, Governance Rules, agenda page number 28. The purpose of this report is to present the draft governance rules to Council for adoption. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Paspaliaris, what is your motion?
The motion is that Council adopt the governance rules as found at attachment 1.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Blaine, thank you. Councillor Paspaliaris, do you wish to speak to the motion?
I think generally with what this council or councillor group has been trying to do is to take steady, perhaps small steps in the right direction to change some of the governance rules. I'm pleased to be part of a councillor group that have chosen to initiate and support some of these changes that have been expressed to us by the community. Some of these include initially and almost immediately removing meals after open council meetings, a small but meaningful gesture, I think. In terms of bringing back general business and urgent business as agenda items that have gone missing for some time. Moving public question time to the start of the meetings in order for people to ask questions about items to be discussed and raised during the meeting instead of after, which has always seemed a little pointless. And allowing members of the public to read out their questions during meetings. Even though we have not changed rules pertaining to members of the public addressing the council at open meetings, I do believe that with further encouragement and initiation, we can have these same people addressing councillors and executives in briefings which offer a question and answer and a more interactive type scenario. Perhaps if this is not working to its full potential, it's an issue that I, as a councillor, am open to discussing again and exploring further in, say, 12 months' time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please. While I am supportive of the proposed changes to the government's rules, I don't think it cuts it just having people coming into the briefings. That option has always been available to every member of the public ever since council's been going. I honestly believe that the council should be able to be addressed by the public in the open meetings, in the open forums here where we are now. We received 19 submissions on the governance rules. I can't remember how many I can't remember a time where there were that many submissions to the governance rules here in Warrnambool ever. And nearly all of the submissions said the public wanted the right to be able to speak at the open meetings. The submission hearings that have been proposed, they're only going to happen at the discretion of council when they decide that they need to be held. If the public could speak at open meetings, they could speak on every single item. Open and transparent, well, that was the catch cry. And it seems that, I think we've forgotten it a bit. This could have been a big step forward for Warrnambool. Many other councils do it, not just Moyna Carangbite, many others around the state do it. It's just disappointing to see our hesitance towards it because we want to be connected with our community, and this was a huge way in order for us to do it. The briefings were still there and we could have always used them, but if you wanted to speak publicly and have your thoughts heard in an open forum, this was the place where it could have happened as well. So while I'm supportive of the changes, I think that we've missed a big opportunity to be open and transparent and listening to what the community wants. But thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Blaine. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak? Councillor Arnott?
As Councillor Paspalaris has said, we are making small steps forward, and we have not put off the agenda forever that we will not have public question time. We have simply said at this point. So I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you, Mayor Jell.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to it? No? Thank you. There being no further speakers, Councillor Paspaliaris, do you wish to speak before closing debate?
I will just say one last thing. Just in response to Councillor Blaine with speaking at, in reference to the briefings and the opportunity to speak there always being there, I think it's on this council to ensure that there is, again, what I've touched on in terms of encouraging and making that option more available and more people aware of it. I personally was not aware of that option before becoming a councillor. So I think my opinion is that if we start there and it seems to be working well, we can stick with it. If it's something that's not becoming more valuable to the community, then and there's still a push for people to want to speak at open meetings, then as Councillor Arnott said, it's always, it can be brought back to the table. It's on the table and we will consider it. Thanks.
Thank you. I will now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 6.9, Council Advisory Committee's review. Agenda page number 33. The purpose of this report is to review council advisory committees. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Ziegler, what is your motion?
Councillor Jelly, I would move that the council advisory committees for Economic Development and Tourism Advisory Committee, the Community and International Relations Advisory Committee, the Planning Advisory Committee, Environment and Sustainability Advisory Committee and the South West Livestock Exchange Advisory Committee be established for the period of 5th of July 2021 to 31st of May 2024, or for a period as outlined in the terms of reference for the individual committees. The motion, actually, just to explain the motion there, the recommendation is that the Welcoming Cities Advisory Committee be named that, but I've specifically changed the motion to make that name the Community and International Relations Advisory Committee, just so people know what's going on.
Okay.
A point of order.
Yes, so Councillor Blaine.
I think
sorry.
Councillor Ziegler missed part of the motion.
Oh, to read the rest out.
Oh, I missed part of the motion. Certainly I did. I apologise.
So
for that. Yeah.
will you accept the officer's recommendation?
I'll continue. That council representation for these committees be nominated at the meeting of council on the 5th of July. That community nomination for vacancies to these advisory committees is advertised in the Warrnambool Standard and on the council's website from Saturday the 8th of May till 2021. until a closing date for application of Friday 18th of June 2021. The Council declares the successful candidates to these advisory committees at its ordinary Council meeting of 5th of July 2021, and that all existing members of advisory committees receive a letter of thanks from Council for their services to the community over the previous term of the committee, and where a committee is continuing, advise them of the process for nomination to the advisory committee. That's my motion.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Blaine, thank you. Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Probably first I should apologise for the gaffe, but we've gotten over that. I actually wrote quite a draft for this one to support the revision of the suite of advisory committees that Council's put up, and I think that this particular suite of advisory committees covers the needs of the city going forward. The reason for changing the suggested name from Welcoming Cities Advisory Committee was that I felt that the name should reflect the purpose and intent of the advisory committees, and Welcoming Cities, to my way of thinking, was nonsensical, doesn't mean anything. There is a Welcoming Cities ethos and set of standards which we suggest the advisory committee does adhere to, but we don't have to have the same name.
Thank you, Councillor Ziegler. Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please. Advisory committees are important for the community to have another voice to council. I'd like to personally thank every single community member who spent time on the current committees as they currently sit. It's great that you're prepared to give up your time in order to try and make the city better for everyone else. The changes really is trying to streamline the advisory committee process in a way that we can reinvigorate membership and keep these groups more and more relevant with bigger and bigger cross sections of the community in them, so that council can really get the most out of them, and the members of the groups can get the most out of council with what they want to see. And as we're putting out for applications, I'd encourage anyone who has any kind of interest or want to try and work together to try and make our city better to please apply. And we look forward to working with you, so I'm happy to endorse.
Thank you. Are there any other councillors who wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Paspaliaris?
I'd like to say that I feel comfortable with changes to these committees, as well as I think what's in there, the proposed formation of more of a partnership network based on the health and wellbeing plan, which will form a sort of separate type area. I believe that there will be more information, resources and successful outcomes adopted with this partnership network based on health and wellbeing plans. So I support this motion.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay. There being no further speakers, Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to speak before closing the debate?
I do. Mayor, the advisory committees are incredibly important. They're not sinecures, they're a legitimate job, and this council has undertaken to indulge in quite a bit of community consultation because we want to hear what the community has to say. Therefore, we want people who feel a sense of responsibility to the city, and particularly in their fields of interest. These advisory committees allow them to put their hand up and to say, I want to contribute to these things. So we urge folks who are interested and have skills in the various areas of these committees to come forward, to volunteer their expertise and their time, because this council will be listening to them.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Passed unanimously. Agenda item 6.10, Allansford Strategic Framework Plan Submissions and Adoption of Plan, agenda page number 40. The purpose of this report is to consider submissions to the draft Allansford Strategic Framework Plan and recommend that the plan be adopted subject to changes and proceed to a planning scheme amendment. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Blain, what is your motion?
To accept the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Arnott, thank you. Councillor Blain, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, please. This is a really exciting plan for Allansford. You know, it's not, you know, they're a part of Warrnambool, they're a huge part of Warrnambool and their community. It's great to see the feedback that we received. It was really positive, especially, you know, some of the areas that really need to be addressed out there sooner rather than later. The drainage at Allansford, the connectivity of Allansford with footpaths and the Ziegler Parade Bridge. A few of the bigger things that are really affecting the Allansford community. With this plan, council should be able to identify the key areas to start work and how we're going to do it in order to improve the lifestyle in the community for Allansford. So I'm happy to endorse.
Thank you. Councillor Arnott, do you wish to speak to the motion? Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Ziegler.
This plan, as Councillor Blain has said, is exciting because it does actually mention Allansford. Allansford tends to be the forgotten cousin, but I'm pleased to see that there's sufficient mention of things like the drainage plan and the bridge in this framework. I wasn't comfortable until I knew that those things were being seriously considered for upgrade. In that respect, I'm comfortable with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak? No? All good. There being no further speakers, Councillor Blain, do you wish to speak to close the motion?
No, thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Passed unanimously. Agenda item 6.11, Wild Coast Landscape Master Plan, agenda page number 47. The purpose of this report is to consider submissions to the draft Wild Coast Landscape Master Plan and recommends that the plan be adopted by council. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Arnott, what is your motion?
That council resolve to receive and consider the submissions in response to the draft Wild Coast Landscape Master Plan and adopt the Wild Coast Landscape Master Plan.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Ziegler, thank you. Councillor Arnott, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, I will. I may have said before at a previous meeting, but an awful lot of work has gone into this landscape master plan, and I would have to congratulate the officers on the work that they have done and the staff. The plan provides recommendations that will ensure the beneficial long-term ecological and cultural outcomes. It also, the plan also provides to keep the precinct as a recreation destination. Another thing I would just like to mention, there will be no more horse training down that way, so that's on the beaches, so that's really good there as well. So it's a great plan and I thoroughly endorse it.
Thank you. Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Just to endorse the comments of a fellow councillor here, I think that it's good that this cements the fact that there'll be no more commercial horse training down in that area.
Thank you. Any other councillors wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Mayor Shelley. I regularly visit the Levy's Point area for one of my recreational surfing, and I witnessed for firsthand the damage the horses were doing out at Levy's, and they were moving the sand dunes considerably, doing a lot of damage, and I'm glad to endorse that the horses no longer visit the sand dunes west of the golf club. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to it? No? Good. Okay, there being no further speakers, councillor Arnott, do you wish to speak to close the meeting? Thank you. Debate. I now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Passed unanimously. Item number 6.12 on the agenda, Warrnambool Planning Scheme Amendment C204 Warrnambool Signs Policy, consideration of submissions, agenda page number 51. The purpose of this report is to consider submissions to Planning Scheme Amendment C204 War and recommends that Council resolves to refer the submissions to an independent planning panel appointed by the Minister for Planning. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Blaine, what's your motion?
That we accept the officer's recommendations.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder to the motion? Councillor Paspaliaris, thank you. Councillor Blaine, would you like to speak?
Yes, please. This planning scheme amendment on our signs policy, it's important. It's a bit of a different way around. Instead of council just adopting it, we'll be going to the planning minister for them to appoint an independent panel to review our proposed policy. As we move forward with technology, especially around signage, it's important that the council has a strong policy in place for sign placement, especially protecting the heritage buildings, especially in our city centre, and setting limits for brightness and location of electronic signs and all signage for that matter. It's important that we have a robust policy so that everyone knows where we stand, they understand the rules and where signs can go and where they can't go. So I'm happy to endorse. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Paspaliaris, would you like to speak? Would any other councillor like to speak to the motion? Good. There being no further speakers, Councillor Blaine, do you wish to speak before closing the debate?
No.
Thank you. Now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Unanimously carried. Thank you. Agenda item 6.13, Advisory Committee and Reference Group Reports, agenda page number 55. The purpose of this report is to consider the records of 2 reference group meetings. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Ziegler, what's your motion?
I'm happy to move that the records of the Port of Warrnambool Reference Group meeting held on the 10th of February 21 and the Cycling Reference Group meeting held on the 24th of February 21 be received.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the report? Councillor Arnott, thank you. Councillor Ziegler, would you like to speak to the motion? Councillor Arnott, would you like to speak to the motion? Would anyone else like to speak to it? Okay. There being no further speakers, Councillor Ziegler, do you wish to speak before closing the debate? No. Thank you. I now put the motion to the vote. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Agenda item 6.14, informal meetings of council reports, agenda page number 56. The purpose of this report is to provide council with copies of informal meetings of council, previously known as Assembly of Councillor Records, as previously required under section 80A(2) of the Local Government Act 1989. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Taylor, what is your motion?
Mayor Jelly, I would move the recommendation that the record of the informal meetings of the council held on the 12th, the 19th and the 26th of April 2021 be received. Thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Paspaliaris, thank you. Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mayor Jelly.
Councillor Paspaliaris. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? Thank you. There being no further speakers, Councillor Taylor, do you wish to speak before closing the debate?
No, thank you.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 6.15, Mayoral and Chief Executive Officer Council Activities Summary Report, agenda page number 57. The purpose of this report is to summarise Mayoral and Chief Executive Officer Council activities since the last ordinary meeting, which particularly relate to key social, economic and environmental issues of direct relevance to the Warrnambool City. Councillors, do I have a motion? Councillor Paspaliaris, what is your motion?
My motion is that the Mayoral and Chief Executive Officer Council Activities Summary Report be received.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for the motion? Councillor Arnott, thank you. Councillor Paspaliaris, do you wish to speak to it?
No, thank you.
Councillor Arnott, do you wish to speak to it? Would any other councillors like to speak? No. Thank you. There being no further speakers, Councillor Paspaliaris, do you wish to speak before closing the debate? Thank you. Now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay. We're up to agenda item 7, public question time. Acting CEO, are there any public questions tonight?
Yes, there's one question, Mayor, from Rodney Blake of Warrnambool. This question is asking about the proposed dredging program for the dredge pocket around the swing moorings where the previous councillors adopted a position which was water technology option 4, nearshore disposal of dredge spoils, with little thought given to the long term regarding minimising the river of sand movement along our coastline, a cheap, lazy option, given the recent low pressure system that passed to the south of Warrnambool that produced a 10-metre open ocean swell, and with Deakin University Port Fairy wave buoy recording a significant wave height of 6.7 metres in the early hours of Sunday the 11th. This swell event caused damage to the breakwater, jetties and boat ramp, and it is yet to be measured the amount of sand movement within the western end of the bay. The HRG agreed to support option 3, which was a hybrid option for 25,000 cubic metres of spoils to be deposited in behind the dunes, with the remaining 5,000 cubic metres used to top up the dunes after previous erosion from storm activity. Will the Warrnambool City Council continue to endorse dumping of the proposed dredge spoils into Lady Bay as per previous council agreement? The response we've fed this afternoon is that Council resolved to endorse the dredging options assessment document and to progress a detailed design of option 4 on the 7th of September 2020. Council also endorsed officers to pursue funding opportunities for dredging. Council staff have since been negotiating with the Department of Transport on the best way forward with respect to dredging of the port, and will continue to do so with any potential activity to be brought back to Council for endorsement. Any decision on a dredging program or which option is chosen will need to include an ongoing maintenance dredge program. The objection to option 4 by members of the Harbour Reference Group has been recorded in the minutes and reported to Council. Council values the advice of the Reference Group, and this advice will be used to assist in making a decision to award a contract to complete the works.
Thank you very much. So agenda item 8, which is the close. There being no further items of business, I declare the meeting closed at 7:02 p.m. Thank you.